10th of January, 356 days to go. 12:29 a.m. I was lost in some strange, black and painful dream world. Faint voices floated around me. "We've wasted enough time on him already. He doesn't know anything. He's useless. We should just let him go. But we've got to get rid of him. Throw him off the gap? They were going to kill me? Throw me off a cliff? Can't you see he's more helpful to us alive than dead? But he could ideas. We don't have a choice. He has to go. No, we need him alive." 12:38 a.m. The voices slowly faded in and out. I lay on the floor, trying hard to stay alert, fighting the heaviness in my head. I tried to focus on what the voices were saying. It was all so hazy. I was feeling around for the walls to try and prop myself up when the door suddenly opened. A dark, blurry figure leaned in towards me. 5:51 a.m. Slowly, I woke up. I had no idea how long I'd been out for, but figured it must be a good few hours. It was starting to get light. I didn't know if the voices I'd heard had been real or just part of some delirious unconsciousness. They felt like a distant memory. Had someone been in here too, I wondered? What had happened? My shoulder was throbbing, and I guessed I must have bashed it hard on something when I was knocked out before. It took me a while to clear my head and get my balance. I shook the sack off and had a look around. Whether the voices were real or not, I had to find a way to break out of there. 6:01 a.m. I'd been imprisoned in a sort of closet, a tiny room where cleaning things were stored. I could barely move with all the mops, buckets and junk covering the shelves and the floor. As my eyes adjusted, I noticed a skylight in the roof. I desperately looked around for a way to get up there, but first I had to free my hands. I needed something sharp. 6:07 a.m. I had a plan. I pressed my ear against the door and listened carefully for signs of movement on the other side. Silence. In the doorway, a broken tile jutted out. Its edge was rough and sharp. I turned around and positioned my tied hands over it, then began rubbing them back and forth, trying to cut through the rope. It was painful leaning back in that position, especially with my aching shoulder, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't cut the rope without cutting my hands too. It hurt, but the plan was working. 6:13 a.m. My hands were free. I looked up again at the skylight. It seemed impossibly high, but I had to try and get up there. I quickly upturned a stack of mop buckets, steadied them, and then using the corners of the walls to help me, I climbed up on top. Crouching uncomfortably and supported by the walls, I slowly straightened up. I couldn't afford to fall. The sound of all those crashing buckets would bring my captors running for sure. This had to work. For a second I thought I heard something outside, but it might simply have been the ringing in my throbbing head. 6:19 a.m. They were back. I had to move fast. "There's nothing to connect him with us," I heard a man say. "We have to keep him here for now, but later we'll let him run, then grab him when we need him again." Were they going to hunt me down like hounds chasing a fox? Hearing that gave me all the motivation I needed. My fingertips barely touched the edge of the skylight, but it was now or never. I bent my knees a little, then launched at the rim of the skylight. For a moment I thought I would fall and come crashing down, but my grasp held firm. The tower of buckets was going to topple over and give me away any second. Braced against the wall, supported with one arm, I felt around for the handle of the skylight. I pushed with all my strength. Nothing. I tried again, pushing harder, and this time it creaked. I froze. Had they heard it? I couldn't hold on much longer. Every muscle in my body was braced to keep me up there, wedged into the corner near the ceiling like some human spider. Despite my unstable footing, I took a risk, and with everything I had, I twisted the handle hard. And this time, with a sharp creak, the skylight opened. I made another lurching thrust and grabbed both sides of the skylight. I kicked hard against the wall and the buckets and pushed myself through the opening. The buckets tipped and collapsed, crashing hard on the floor below. I was out. I scrambled across the roof, not daring to look behind me. The shouting below had already started. I found a balcony, jumped over and skidded down the drainage pipe. Just as I leaped off and landed, a man ran out onto the balcony. He looked down and glared at me. "You better keep your damn mouth shut," he yelled as he swung his leg around the pipe. I turned and ran. I concentrated on running and running only, forcing myself beyond anything I've ever done before. 6:58 a.m. I was in a strange part of town trying to find my way home. I didn't think I could take another step, but I pushed on. I don't know how long I walked. I wished I'd taken more notice of the house I'd escaped from, but I just wanted to get away as fast as I could, and the minute I hit the ground, I'd run like a lunatic. I was sure we'd been in the car last night for an hour at least, but maybe they circled a few times to throw me off. Eventually, I came to a familiar main road which led me home. Home, Flood Street, Richmond, 7:43 a.m. Everyone was still in bed by the time I got back. I crept to my room and made a few notes, jotting down the names of buildings and streets I could remember passing. There'd been a little church at an intersection not far from the house, a primary school and a car wash. Then I pulled out Dad's drawing of the giant angel. I studied it hard, trying to find something in it that would give me an idea of why I'd been kidnapped and interrogated. "What is it about you," I asked the stern figure, "that everybody wants to know? What secret do you guard?" It was then that I noticed the commando angel had some sort of fitting beneath the gas mask that hung around his neck. It looked like a decoration, some sort of medal. How could I overlook that before? Maybe one day I'd find out the secret, and then I could go back to that place on my terms. 9:21 a.m. I woke up, and last night's terror started to smother the nightmare I'd had again. The darkness of my dream, the freezing cold, the fear, the white toy dog, and somewhere a baby crying, was overshadowed by the memory of the closet I'd been locked in. What was I going to tell Mum? I was sure she'd be mad at me for not coming home last night, but there was no way I could tell her about being abducted, not after all the things she'd been through. I knew that somehow I'd just have to keep it to myself, for now anyway. There was a strange atmosphere in the house. I got out of bed and headed down the hall. Gabby and Mum were both in the kitchen, Mum on the phone with her back to me, taking down notes with a pencil. "What's happened?" I asked, wondering if they'd somehow found out about where I'd been. "What is it?" I said again. "It's all gone," Gabby whispered. "All of it." "What? What's gone?" Mum dropped the pencil she was using and it rolled on the floor. Slowly she put the phone down. When she turned to look at us, I gasped with shock. She almost looked as sick as when she'd heard the news about Dad's illness. Gabby turned to me. "All our money's gone. Cal, Dad withdrew just about everything when he was in Ireland." I looked to Mum as if to say, "Tell me it's not true." "She's right," Mum whispered. "There were only 6 months' worth of house repayments left in the account. There's nothing now." I couldn't speak. I stood watching Mum comfort Gabby, holding her close, smoothing her hair and telling her it was going to be all right. Without money, how would Mum be able to pay the mortgage? Until last year she'd worked full-time for an architect but had had to take a lot of unpaid leave when Dad was sick. Now she just worked a casual job. "It's all gone," said Mum. "Gone. Over $100,000 simply vanished. Our entire life savings. There are $19 left in the account." The only sound was Gabby's stifled sobs. I wanted to say something, but I had no words. I knew the mortgage payments on the house were automatically deducted every month from Dad's account. But what would happen now? Mum barely earned enough to pay for the groceries. We'd lost our father. I'd come close to losing my life, and now, it seemed, we were going to lose our house. Who was doing this to us? Any lingering notion I might have had about telling Mum what had happened to me last night evaporated. There was no way I could load her up with more worry. She was so stressed she didn't even ask me where I'd been. "I'll have to call Uncle Rafe," said Mum. "We won't lose our house, Mum. I can get a job," I said. "I'll leave school and look for work." Mum grabbed me and held me in a hug. "You will not. Somehow we'll find a way through this. Thank God for you kids," she said. "I don't know how we're going to manage, but at least we've got each other."